Hello and welcome to the Gig Sessions Lunchtime Talk, episode number 10. Please note that this is a place where you can ask the artist any questions you like. All we ask is put a Q in front of it so that we can see it and hopefully get it answered faster. Please remember that we are streaming both live at the Tina Terry Agency and on the Gig Sessions Facebook page, so not all the comments come in as we'd like. So if we do miss your question, there is the reason, and we apologize in advance. So let's get to the show. Today's guest, we have Miss Katie Henry and Jenny Langer, and let's introduce you to Katie. From her musical upbringing in the mountains of North Jersey to cutting her teeth in the New York City circuit, Katie Henry channels all of her experiences into her own distinctive sound. Whether she's crafting lyrics and melodies, soloing on her Gibson SG guitar, tickling the keys, or belting out her favorite blues song, Katie shows that her music has no limits. Welcome, Katie.
Hi, Tina. Thanks so much for having me.
Our next guest is Miss Jenny Langer. She's always had a passion for live entertainment. She left the Sunshine State to attend Berklee College of Music in Boston after being awarded an Outstanding Musicianship Award and World Tour Scholarship, where she majored in music business. She now heads the East Coast Entertainment Office in DC, as well as being an active professional musician who's toured internationally, both in blues and jazz. In 2012, she was the second youngest artist to be inducted into the Blues Hall of Fame in Virginia. Welcome, Jenny.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So I'm so excited about this show because it's all ladies. And sometimes you just want to be a girly girl. And so I wanted to do something a little different with this since we are all ladies, and sort of kind of start with this idea that men have these preconceived notions about women. And so I'm going to take these preconceived notions and I'm going to ask it back to you as a question. And then I want you to answer, which is your choice. And then, dialogue if you would like to. Okay. So I'm going to start with bling or no bling. Katie, you can go first.
Wait, so is that a preconceived notion for women?
Yeah.
Bling.
And you, Jenny?
Oh, bling. Absolutely. I mean, I like to decorate myself as much as I can. I think that's part of the fun of being an artist, is that you can walk out there and wear things that you can't wear to the grocery store, and people are going to love it.
Next one. Makeup, artistry or necessity?
I would say artistry. Like when I'm performing, I get very glittery, and I think that relates to the bling. But yeah, I wouldn't think of it as a necessity.
I would, as a performer, when I'm there to actually entertain an audience, it's the artistry. It's the entire visual presentation that you're putting out there for people. They're not coming to listen to a CD played over the PA. They're there to watch a show. And I think part of the show is not just the music that you play, but it's the overall performance that you give. And if you want to walk out there, with big fake eyelashes and paint your face purple, that's your artistic decision. I know for me with Moonshine Society, I tend to go for more retro aesthetic, and that's my artistic choice.
Okay. Next one, clothing, vintage or contemporary?
Vintage.
Okay.
Vintage 100%. If you know me at all, you know how big of an appreciation I have for culture and the lifestyle and the fashions of the 50s and 60s. And I don't know, there's something about fashion today that I'm not going to say it's blah, but it's gone in a different direction. And I don't think it's always as much fun. I think there was a lot of fun that was happening with clothing in the 60s and embracing the way women were shaped in the 50s.
Yes.
I love that.
Me too. Me too. And I think it's why none of us really knew the size of Marilyn Monroe, because she was so beautifully shaped and so perfectly proportioned. We thought that was a Barbie doll then. And they should have made Barbies more like Marilyn.
Yes.
So shoes, buy for an outfit or purchase the outfit for them?
Oh, that's a hard one. Both? Can I do both?
Yes. Yes.
Because there's just those certain pairs that you build the whole outfit around. I'm a very big boot person. I love boots. And usually that's just pairs well with jeans. So it's pretty simple in that way.
I'm going to say buy the shoes for the outfit. Although I never wear stilettos. As graceful as I try to make myself look in photos, I'm not in person. So stilettos are an issue for me. Boots are great. Those are ass-kicking shoes. Always a good choice. It needs to have a thick heel because I like to stomp and dance around quite a bit in shows. And you just can't do that when you're like on something that's, this high and that thin.
Exactly.
So do you guys have a lot of shoes? Do you buy shoes just to buy shoes?
I wouldn't say I'm like a shoe addict, but I don't know. I just hate when I'm like scrolling on my phone and then I see advertised shoes that are perfect for me. And I'm just like, how did they know that I want those so bad now? So it is a weakness, but like, I wouldn't say I'm like, I don't have like a closet for them.
Well, this is my mother on the screen, and she does tell the truth. I just buy shoes and more shoes, and I love shoes. That is my girly thing. So your nails, salon, home, or not at all?
Salon and home. Not salons recently, but there's nothing like that fresh Manny feeling. But I could paint my own nails and be fine with that too.
It's salon for me when things are normal. I'm a big gel fan, so I don't have to think
about it. Right, exactly. And they don't chip at all.
And I have a couple girlfriends where when life is normal and we're all so busy, that's our like guaranteed time that we get to spend hanging out together is we'll go get our nails. And I miss that right now.
Yeah, me too.
No, me too. I think what obviously more than live music. Live music is number one, but I miss sitting on a patio having dinner with a cocktail, and I don't care if it's downtown somewhere or on a waterfront. I miss that so much right now.
Yeah.
So traveling, when you're getting ready to travel, do you prepare when you pack or do you procrastinate?
Procrastinate. There's so much you have to pack and consider so much, but I don't know. I read something that was like takes like 2 hours before the trip to cram pack, and then it takes like a month to unpack after the trip. That's unfortunately like speaks to my experience.
Yeah, I always know that I have to pack the night before, because if I don't, I'll assume that I'll remember everything. Doesn't everybody do this? Like, I'll remember that, and then you're at the airport and you're like, I needed that, and now I got to buy it on the road. So I always pack the night before, so I have that time the next morning to make sure I got everything. But my fiance is a pilot, so I get the benefit of traveling a lot. So I've learned my lessons. Do not try to do it in the morning. It's not gonna work.
So how is that reaction when you unpack your suitcase? Because as girls, and maybe guys do this too, they're just not honest about it. But you unpack your suitcase and you're like, I don't want to wear that tonight. How do you deal with that? How do you suck up that emotion and be like, well, last night, this is what I wanted to wear? How do you deal with that?
Personally, I'm a big thrift store person, and there was a time that happened when I was in California, and I was like, I'm not feeling it, and it really matters, you know what I mean? Like, to really be in that mode, that performance mode, like I have to be feeling it. And I went to a thrift store and I found this like blinged out, talk about the bling, this blinged out jacket, and I was like, that's it. And it was the night actually I was opening up for John Mayall, which was a really fun show, and I got a compliment on it, and I was like, they wouldn't believe me if I told them that I bought that today, but I did. But yeah, it's a tough situation.
How about you, Jenny?
I always pack twice as many performance outfits as I need. And I know that sounds excessive, but just like Katie's saying, it sometimes you feel it and you just don't. And and there's plenty of outfits that I'll wear once in a year, because the rest of the year I'm like, I didn't really like how that looked. But if you bring double what you need, then you're guaranteed to have something that'll fit your mood that day.
That's good advice. I'm gonna follow it more.
I mean, guys just have like shirt and pants.
I know.
So simple. I know. and then dress up, 2 shirts, 1 pair of shoes, 1 jacket. We have like 50, and they're so simple. So, cooking. Do you think like a chef, or do you cook out of a box?
I'm growing more into thinking like a chef, I would say.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love cooking, but I'm a recipe girl.
Okay.
I really will attempt something like, chopped style, where it's just, what do I got in my pantry? I do that. But if I find a recipe that looks like it's going to be fun, I will do everything from scratch.
That's good to know. I'm going to start sharing some recipes with you then.
Yes, please.
Yeah. It's funny because I get into the recipes, which makes me buy ingredients that I'm never going to use again, except for that recipe. So you hope you like it, that way you can keep making it. But then it's the challenge of putting the ingredients left over into the internet to find another recipe.
Yeah.
So I'm always chasing recipes. Exercise, daily or never?
Every other day.
Oh, every other day. That's good.
Yeah.
That's a commitment.
I would love to say there's a regular schedule, and there's not. But I try to work out on days where I'm not performing. I consider performance to be a workout.
Yeah.
You sweat, you're loading gear in and out, you're hauling PAs onto speakers. That's a workout.
Yeah. That's a workout. Yeah, it takes a lot of muscle.
That's part of my motivation to get back into it, was because of how physically demanding what we do is. And I think the more I could prepare myself before I need to, the better.
Yeah. So. I do a fair amount of private events, not just public events. And those private events are usually at venues that are not clubs or theaters. So you bring in everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm loading a PA out of my house into my car, out of my car into a venue, and then the reverse. So yeah, it's a whole day workout.
Mm-hmm. And you want to be, you like Katie, you're dragging in your own guitar amp, and they're like, she's obviously the guitar player. And if you're struggling to load that in, perceptions, people might be like, she may not be very good. I mean, it's crazy that those things do matter, first impressions are everything. So weightlifting for Katie.
Yeah, I'll put that on my workout routine.
So movies, romance, comedy, suspense, or horror?
Somewhere in between suspense and comedy, I would say.
Okay.
I'm a big comedy fan, but unfortunately it's the dumb comedies, and I'm always like, one of my top 3 movies would be Tommy Boy. I just love Chris Farley so much. I also love fantasy movies, the ones that are super over the top, like Pan's Labyrinth, for example. Movies that just take you somewhere else for those 2 hours. I like that.
What's your favorite movie, Katie? Like right now?
Oh, right now. I am actually, I wouldn't call it a movie, but I'm something I've been watching on repeat has been Hamilton. I don't know if you guys have watched it yet, but I highly recommend it. I was very into musicals when I was younger, and I still am, and I haven't been this into a musical in a long time. It's on Disney Plus, and it's from a performance from 2016. It's timelier than ever. I've just never seen a piece of art like that, especially streamed on a platform. So I know it's not a movie, but I've been watching that.
No, I think that matters. I mean, because, you know, and we're going to come back to this when we're done with this. I mean, you know, technology has changed the idea of what a film really means. So that's totally fair to call that a film. Food. Do you count calories or do you eat as you please?
Eat as I please. I mean, I'm mindful about what I'm eating, but I'm not a calorie counter.
I just started keto 2 weeks ago. Actually, Saturday will be 2 weeks. So right now, I'm not counting calories, but I'm counting carbs, and it's exhausting. So, you know, I'm going to stick with it at least as long as I can until I just murder somebody for it.
And that'd be so easy to do because let's face it, in our lifestyles, you know, like you're saying, Katie, you want to be mindful, but a lot of when you're so hungry, you grab something, it is carbs.
Right.
So, wow, you've given up carbs.
I'm trying. I posted something on Facebook earlier this week, my top 8 signs that you're in ketosis, and number 2, sex dreams about cupcakes, because they don't tell you about those things. They talk about, you know, like dropping weight and keto breath and foggy headedness and unbelievable energy. And I'm like, I'm dreaming about being in frosting, and this is a problem.
This is a problem. This is great. Oh my God.
What flavor is the frosting, can I ask?
Strawberry. It was strawberry.
Strawberry.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome. So collections, do you have them or don't have them?
I don't really. I mean, like gemstones, like I'm into like gemstones, and you could say I collect them, but I wouldn't even say that. I'll think about it though. I'm gonna go with no though.
I have a pretty big collection of vinyl, and I love New Orleans funk that you can only find down to New Orleans. I always go to Peaches, and you can find these amazing, hard to find releases on vinyl, and also some very cool compilations. But NOLA funk, old blues, old jazz vinyl, I have a lot of that. And then that shoe question earlier, I have a shoe. I do.
I'm jealous.
That's my office, but about 50% of the space is just shoe racks that are lining the walls. And my fiance is a very good sport about it. The fact that room for that.
I'm so jealous. And see, you get to get away with it because you're an entertainer. So this is your office, and these are part of your entertainment.
Tax write-offs when you wear them on stage.
I know.
I need these.
So there's the answer as to why every now and again you should just splurge on a pair of Jimmy Choo shoes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Every girl has to have one pair. So your creativity beyond music, if you have it, are you crafty or artsy?
Artsy.
What do you do?
Well, I said I was into musicals, and not that I'm like in a theater production, but I just am very passionate about like acting and dancing, and just they say that like singing, dancing, acting are all part of the same artsy performance-based stuff. So I'm very, very into that.
I'm artsy, not crafty. It would look like a 5-year-old if it was something.
Right. Yeah, I can't draw at all. Yeah.
But
I can color though. I like coloring.
There you
And
go.
now I think I know the answer to both of you for this one, because you did kind of. Well, I'm gonna come back to this one because Katie, you did answer it, but one of them is jewelry. Are you gems or stones?
Mm.
So you're a gem girl.
Yeah.
Are you a gem girl or a stone girl?
I would say gem. Both too. I just love rocks.
How about you?
I don't have a lot of jewelry that's of value. That's like plastic. I love plastic. Plastic is great. And turquoise. I have a lot of turquoise. But beyond that, I'd say if you look at my jewelry, it's either very metal heavy. I like big, bold pieces, or it's fringe. I have a slight addiction because it moves so well, but it's lightweight. It's awesome for stage.
I'm a fan of fringe too.
Yeah, me too. And that's like one of those fashion things to me that never goes away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if it's in fashion, then it's trending. If it's not, then you're a hippie, and you know, so it just never goes out of style.
Yeah.
So then the last one, and I think you guys have kind of answered it. Diamonds, forever or don't care?
I mean, I love them, but I don't have a lot of them, so it's just like I don't care, I guess.
I'm not wearing it. It's upstairs right now, but I purposefully told my fiance I did not want a diamond if and when the day came that we were going to do this. So the ring is a large peach sapphire. And
Ooh.
much rather have something that's unique and that I think is pretty rather than something that we're told is pretty and that we're supposed to have. That's just me.
I love it. That's perfect. All right. So now we're going to come back to who you guys are individually. I'm going to start with you, Katie. You know, you're new to me.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really awesome getting to know who you are musically. And one of the folks that when I first Googled you that came up was John Ginty. And I know he was formerly with the Dixie Chicks, and he's with the Almond Betts band now.
Correct.
Okay. And I know that he produced your last release, High Roads, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So how did you guys meet, and whose idea was it to produce this album? You asked him, he asked you.
So I work very closely with the person who plays bass in my band. His name's Antar, and we met in the city at an open mic, and we started writing songs and just have really good creative chemistry. And we were writing songs and we were talking about just recording a couple of them. And around that same time, he was on a gig with John, and they started talking, and Antar said, oh, I work with Katie and we're looking to record some of these songs. And he's like, oh, well, I know just the place, and Showplace Studios, which sadly Ben Elliott, who engineered it, recently passed, but he was based in Dover, which isn't far from where I grew up, which I just thought was a funny coincidence. And yeah, so we went in, and then those few songs turned into the album, which is just like interesting that it just unfolded. It wasn't as much as like this is what we're doing as much as it unfolded. And I would say that when we decided we were going to record at that studio, it was just a given that John was going to produce it. And it was just a great creative team.
And how long have you two been working together?
Like 2 years.
Okay. And you've been touring for, I mean, outside of your home region for 2 years?
Like a year and coming up on 2 years, but I would say like a year and a half. Yeah, ever since the album came out, which was a year and a half ago.
So that was your debut album.
Right.
Ah, okay. All right. I thought you had another one under your belt. That's good to know. Okay. So now we're going to come back to you, Jenny. You have so many facets to you. So I want to talk about Moonshine Society first. This is your band, and you are the lead singer. You guys just recently won a self-produced album at the International Blues Challenge. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And is this your first time to submit to the IBCs? And why do I know you as a New Orleans funk jazz band?
Well, it was our first time submitting to the IBCs. It's not our first album. We actually put out one in 2011, so it had been a few years.
Okay.
But, the band had a residency in 2010 at the House of Blues and Jazz in Shanghai, in China. So we were all living over there.
Cool.
And before we left the States, we decided, you know what, we're gonna be playing 6 nights a week, same club, same setup. We should really record this in the last month because we will be so tight by that time. Like, let's take advantage of that. So our bass player, Chris Brown, brought his personal recording rig. So he recorded it. When we came back, he and I chose what we liked the best, and he basically produced the whole thing. So that was our first album. It was totally live. The second one that came out last year was a studio album. All the originals on there were written by myself, and that was produced, co-produced with Mark Williams, who owns Sucker Punch Studios in Bethesda, Maryland, where we recorded, and Todd Ellsworth, who played quite a bit of bass on that. He's out of Richmond, and myself. It's funny, we're based right outside of Washington, D.C. in Northern Virginia, and I'm from California originally, but when people see us live and they hear our music, they instantly assume that I'm from New Orleans and this is a New Orleans band. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the vibe that we're giving. It's also the musical selections, because along with the blues and the original tunes that we're putting out, I love New Orleans music. So we're putting in some meters tunes, and we're doing mashups with Dr. John material, stuff like that. So I think that's why people get that impression, but we never put it in our biography that we're New Orleans based. It just, that's what the audience has decided.
And then it's ironic, I met you through Jason Ricci, which he says hi, by the way. And, Jason lives in New Orleans. And so we're still trying to get them to recognize, that he's one of their own now.
Sure.
So we have a question from John McSweeney. He wants to know, what is your favorite song that you've written and performed? Katie?
That's a good question, John. I want to say that there's ties because there's different ones I like for different reasons, but I would have to go with Carry You, especially because of the performance aspect of it. It's just that moment in the show where you could just feel it in the air that everybody's like hanging on to every note. And I just love that. And so yeah, the song Carry You. And I've been told by people that it's helped them get through tough times. And to me, there's nothing better as a songwriter to know that your songs help people to cope with whatever they're going through. Good question.
I think, God, that one's hard for me. My favorite song that I've written is the one that I like to perform the least. And I know that sounds crazy, but there's a song on our last album called The One Who Got Away. And that was written in the midst of me dealing with a cancer diagnosis. And it was about the fallout of my first marriage. So it was how the disease ultimately was a part of the divorce. So it's a very emotional song. I have a very hard time singing it on stage because it brings me right back to those moments. But it's the song that's won the most awards for us, and it's the most requested by people who are familiar with the album. And it was a bonus track, and then it wound up getting the most radio airplay. So I'm like, all right, well, maybe I did something good here. But the one I like performing the most would probably be Come On Home. And it's just because it's such a freaking hard song to sing. I get mad that I did that to myself. I feel like a freaking champ at the end of it that I was able to do it.
And that is the girl I've gotten to know right there in you, Jenny. I mean, you put so much on your plate. And I want to come back to, your other side is that you do what I do for East Coast Entertainment. And I think, again, what made this so interesting is, Katie, you're booking yourself. So we're all three doing the same thing. But how do you balance? I mean, because at East Coast, your job is to not just book bands. You're actually having to be creative and do programming, correct?
That's right. And that's ultimately not what the position was that I applied for. And a fair number of agents stick with booking, and that's, it's a tunnel for them. That's all they do. But within East Coast Entertainment, we're working with clubs, we're working with casinos, we're working with conferences. Here in DC, I have many casinos, a couple convention centers, a lot of government events that happen. So for those folks that wanted something more than just a band, it was an opportunity for me to get artistic and produce something else. And growing up, I was in theater. I was an actress. I was a member of SAG by the time I was 8 years old. So I kind of grew up in this. So to now be able to be on both sides of the desk, as it were, both an artist and a director, producer, booking agent, is awesome. It doesn't feel like work. I don't mind the number of hours that under normal circumstances those two roles add up to, because I would be bored if I wasn't doing that.
That's awesome. So we have another question from Ryan Baker. He said, if you had a choice to bring back to life a musician so you could perform with them, who would it be? That's a good question.
That's a really good question. Oh man, that's a question I'm going to need a minute.
And then to explain, Ryan Baker was an agent here at the Tina Terry Agency when I first started. And Ryan is a really good agent. And yeah, I miss you, Ryan.
Well, hi, Ryan. Thanks for tuning in to hang out with us. I had a personal goal that unfortunately I did not get to achieve. I had a personal goal the last 10 years that I wanted to at least perform, if not have the chance to eventually record with Dr. John. Like,
oh,
on my dream list of things that I could do as an artist, that was there. And I was getting on stage, like we were prepping to get on stage the day that he passed away. And I was with the Ron Holloway band at a big festival. And I got a message from someone in his usual band that he'd passed, and I was so crushed. And I had never even met him, but I'd seen him a few times, and musically he was such a big influence. So yeah, that day sucked. And if I could bring him back, I would.
Yeah, there's so many different ways I could go with it. But I guess I'll just go with the first name that came to mind, because I grew up a huge Beatles fan. And one time I had a dream of John Lennon, and I was like, was he really a real person? Like, to me, he's just mythical. And I know that that's not, like, there's many different directions I could go, but I'll just go with my gut on that one, because the fact that he was larger than life and just really inspired me in so many different ways, it would be thrilling to bring him back and sing one with him, especially during these times.
So I am a Beatles fanatic. I have lots of Beatles paraphernalia in this office. I strive to own every book ever written about the Beatles. And for me, it started because the car that I learned to drive in only had AM radio, and AM plays the Beatles all the time. So I just, I was introduced to them from their 1950s stuff first. And just loved it. It made me realize that I'm a sucker for a good pop song. I like pop music. I crafty, clever songs, and they're the masters.
Yes.
But yeah, I remember going home and telling my mom, "Wow, I discovered this band, the Beatles." And her thought process growing up was, kind of maybe like the Woodstock idea. It was all sex, drugs, and rock and roll. So by that time, she knew the Beatles as they had become, by Sgt. Pepper's, because they had definitely turned a switch. But God, I love that band. I'm so with you on that one.
Yeah.
So how old were you, Katie, when you penned your first song?
I would say like 14, 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what is SAG, Jenny? You mentioned you were a member of SAG by the time you were 8?
Screen Actors Guild.
Oh, okay.
So if you're signed to an agency, if you're doing commercial work, television, movies, etc., at a certain point, once you've done so many hours, you have to become a member of the union, or you get in big trouble.
So what were you doing? Commercials?
So when I was 5, I was just modeling. And actually, I joke that the height of my career was when I was 5 years old. I was actually in Vogue magazine in a Just
Wow.
And it's been all downhill ever since then. But I did some voiceover work as a kid, and I was an extra in a lot of movies. I was in a few commercials. I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, so that's where I was doing most of the work. But when I was in 4th grade, we moved to Burbank for what's known as pilot season. And I was being sent to a lot of auditions for television shows. And there was one that looked like it was going to get picked up, and then it didn't wind up coming to fruition. But things like auditions and feeling like you're judged by people watching you perform, it was just a part of my childhood. So now as an adult, when I'm on stage, I don't know what stage fright means. People describe the feeling. That's just that happens here. I'm used to judging faces, and I'm used to reading a room and being able to talk to different types of people. And I think I have my weird childhood to thank for that.
So, Katie, you keep mentioning musicals. You want to write one? You want to perform in one? You want to do both? What's your goal?
Yeah. And I wanted to say, like, writing too, like not only songs, but just, a big reader. And can't say enough about Hamilton, but wow, just the craft that goes into writing and to express in song in a different way. I think that's what fascinates me about musicals. It's like I'm very much used to like rock music, and to have musicals kind of take different genres, and I just love how it's like a melting pot for all of it. But especially with singing, I would say what inspired me to sing was like musical songs, which I recently realized, because I kind of forgot that that's where it came from. But I was in like high school productions, and I auditioned when I was in college for a play, and the callback was improv, and that's just not something I was comfortable with. But I have a lot of respect for people who have that talent. And then it didn't work out, and then I joined the jazz band as a result of that not working out. And it was just interesting how, my life picked up musically in the way that it has when I put the musical life down, but it's still very much like an open door for me.
Yeah, that would be fun to do that.
Yeah, which is really cool. I find it coincidence that Jenny, you were involved in musicals and different types of performance as well. It's really cool.
After high school, I had a lot of friends who wound up going to New York to pursue Broadway.
Mm.
And instead I went to Berkeley to pursue music.
Mm-hmm.
And they used to joke that I did that because I was too lazy to learn a monologue. I'm like, no, that's not why. It's really because my favorite part of this is the music. That's just what I
Yeah.
That's funny.
Right. Yeah, I think it's interesting that both of you have an acting, writing, performing background.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get to what started to come out in the questions. Your third facet, Jenny, is that you are would I say a pinup model?
Yeah, you could call me a pinup model or a neo pinup model. When I was at Berkeley, I started modeling, and it was pinup style. And at first, it was to build up just basically free images that I could use as a musician when we were promoting our shows. And as a college student, you have no money. But there are other college students who are majoring in photography who also have no money, but they're looking for models to build their portfolio. So I met this insanely creative girl, and I'm still friends with her. Her name is Emma. Now she lives in the LA area. But she really loved, at the time, retro pinup styles of photography. And, you know, that was a time, I'm going to age myself right now, but that was a time where the women who you would see on TV and in media who were being fawned over were thin and blonde. And I don't want to say they were dumb, but they were putting out a dumb persona on purpose. People like Jessica Simpson and Paris Hilton. And it's like the modern day Marilyn Monroe thing where they're actually probably brilliant, but they were pretending to not be on purpose. And that used to piss me off so much watching that.
Yeah.
And here I'm short and I'm like curvy to a cartoonish factor, and I'm brunette, and I'm just the opposite of that. So by embracing pinup, I could in turn show art that embraced women who look like me. And I started getting messages from corset companies and jewelry companies who were targeting that kind of audience. And so I started modeling for them. Sometimes they would just send me free stuff that I could use on stage. Sometimes they were actually paying me for the work. And I found that I loved it so much that I just continued after all these years. And now I put out a calendar every other year. Usually it's for sale on the Moonshine Society website. And I also send them as Christmas gifts to a lot of my favorite people in the industry. And it's become something that people, they look forward to it. And if they haven't received it by Christmas, they'll actually reach out to me, making sure that theirs didn't get lost in the mail. I think that's so fun.
And then you hate that moment when you might have to be like, that's next year. I didn't do that this year.
But I think it's important as a performer, it doesn't matter your gender and it doesn't matter your genre to be able to feel good about the image that you put out there of yourself, because ultimately you're the one crafting it. As soon as you let someone else craft it, you know, you're in a bad spot. And I knew that I wanted to say, this is what I look like, and you can love it or you can leave it. And in owning that sexuality, I think made me feel like I was in the driver's seat of the whole thing. As women, sometimes we're told how we're supposed to look and how we're supposed to dress. And, you know, I'm not going to name names, but there are plenty of amazing, talented women in the blues genre who will walk out there wearing next to nothing, and the audience has come to expect that from them. And I start to wonder how they feel about that as the years go on. I know I don't wear the same thing on stage now that I did 15 years ago, and I don't know what I'll be wearing in 15 years from now, but either way, I want to be the one dictating it.
And to me, that is one of my greatest respects I had for Candy Kane.
Yes.
She owned it. It's kind of like Oprah, you know, everybody is beautiful. You just have to know how to dress for whatever it is, whatever size you are. Mm-hmm. And Candy was always so awesome at she would send gifts to the office, like let's say a box of chocolate, and then she would send 2 to my home because she would tell me that if I didn't eat, I was going to blow away. So she was like the other side of the coin, was like, no one should be that skinny and you need to go eat, and that is not healthy. And I think that's the sad irony that people have. And I'm sure you get this a lot, Katie, because you are way thinner than I am. When you're thin, they say, oh, you're so healthy. It's like, what does being skinny have to do with being healthy? The two don't equate, but they do. They think like, oh, you're skinny, you're healthy, or oh, you're skinny, you must work out every day. My answer, sadly, is I smoke. I'm a smoker. So I think that's, the gist of how I keep my weight off. Jenny's sequence dress is definitely a pinup look. Is that on an album cover?
Oh,
and I think she's talking about the one I used for the promo.
The sequin dress. Well, there's no sequins on that one. That was like a negligee. I'm wondering if she's talking about, there's a dress that kind of went viral after I wore it on stage when Susan Tedeschi joined us, but it's this gold sequin dress, and in rainbow lettering, all sequins, it says, "You will never own me." And then I wound up wearing that at Jazz Fest in New Orleans, so that was photographed quite a lot, and that's definitely a pin-up shape when you wear it. So I'm wondering if that's the one that she's talking about.
That probably is the one.
Not on an album cover, Joyce, but I'd be happy to tell you where I got it if you want to get your own.
If that were to happen, I'm never going to see my mom again. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, that could be fun. So, let's see here. I had another question. Oh, I know what I want to ask you girls, because I think you're like right at that age when it was super important from a grade school, high school point of view, but you guys might be like right at that age where it just started going away. But did you ever compete in a battle of the bands?
I have not competed in a battle of the bands, but I've heard a lot about them, but no.
I have, definitely have. When I was at Berkeley, Moonshine Society ultimately formed by 2 bands merging. I had a band that I was leading called Black Betty and the Bad Habits. And then a guitarist at the time who was playing with us had his own band. And when we all moved to DC, we merged them. But Black Betty and the Bad Habits, we competed in a number of battles that were happening around Boston. And that was the time when like MySpace was still a thing. And I realized after the first couple that some of these battles were not actually giving you real accolades. It was based on how many friends you could bring and how many tickets you sold. But what it did for us was it got us into venues that would never pay attention to us before. And then we could put on our website that we had played at those places. And so that was really actually a big stepping stone for us. And then we won Pixie 103 FM's Battle of the Bands in Massachusetts. And they wound up paying for our entire album that we made is Black Betty and the Bad Habits. So that was cool.
That was cool. That's a nice prize.
Yeah.
Wow. And so you said that your entire band lived in China?
Yes. So this venue is owned by a movie star, basically, Lin Dongfu, Mr. Lin, and he has this incredible deep voice, and you meet him, and he's just so fascinating. But he personally gets to select the bands that come, and it's only 4 bands a year because it's a 3-month contract, and he brings in people from all over the world. And I had been following a couple guys who were Berkeley alumni. I didn't know them that well, but I would see them on Facebook, and I would see them playing at this venue. And so finally I reached out to one of them. I said, how did you get this gig? I'm just so curious. Like, you're not from China. Nobody in your band is. How did this happen? And he kind of told me who he was in touch with. So I began pestering this club, basically. like every other month, sending our stuff, letting them know that we were interested, just keeping on top of it. And then in November 2009, pestered them again, and I got an immediate response telling me that the band that they had lined up for January 1st had just backed out, like within the last 24 hours, and that they needed a replacement and that we had been on their short list. And so if we could be there, pack up our lives and disappear for 3 months, January 1st, that the contract was ours. And so I talked to my bandmates, and everybody was in a position where we could do that. And we went over there with legendary harmonica player Charlie Sales, who is on this album. He's incredible. He's a character. I talk about what a strange person I am. He needs movies made about him. Like, he's a living embodiment of blues. But he was over there, and we were basically backing him up, and then he and I would kind of share the front part of the show for most of it.
Oh, that's awesome. So you met and formed this band when you were in college at Berklee?
Yes.
Okay. And are all of you in the DC area now? You all left Boston and you're all in DC?
So the lead guitarist, his name's Joe Poppin. He's not with us now anymore, but at the time, he and our bass player, Chris Brown, the three of us moved here. So it was really the trio that continued it. But when we went to China, we actually called our drummer from Berklee. He was then living just outside of Nashville, and said, can you do this? And it was a very quick call. I was watching Chris do it. He's like, can you go to China for 3 months in January? Okay. Yeah, he's in. I'm like, what? Doesn't he have questions? Doesn't he want to know? Like, what is he saying?
No.
It all happened very quickly.
The chance of a lifetime,
Yeah. And I would go back in a heartbeat. I have gone back to China since then. I've performed in Hong Kong. I've performed in Shanghai again. And the reverence that they have for American indigenous music is amazing. And it's a very different reaction, I find, than what you get from American audiences who have the opportunity to see it and hear it all the time. I don't want to say it's, blasé to them, but over there it's exotic and it's historic. And there's also the fact that during communist China, which did not end all that long ago, it was straight up illegal to listen to blues and jazz music. And there were severe consequences if you were caught owning music, vinyl, cassettes, whatever year it was, of those genres. And so now to go over there and to be playing that music, there's this separate layer of rebellion and naughtiness, even though it's legal now, that goes into it. And I don't know, it was fascinating to meet people who lived there, who loved this music, and to tell me what it was like growing up, how they had to hide it, about that stuff.
And I wonder, is that, the basis of where the music came from, or just the innuendos and the lyrics? Why were they banned?
I think communist China wanted to control what people were listening to and reading and seeing.
And they just
felt. Some of that has opened up, and to be honest, some of it has not. They don't have the same freedom of journalism that we have here in America now.
Yeah, I do get to experience a little bit of it. I worked with Sugar Blue for many years, and roughly 3 years ago, he and his wife took up residency in China. And so it's been interesting because I'll be like, well, can you put that on Facebook? And she's like, we don't have Facebook here. I'm like, then how do we deal with this?
Yeah. We would have to use some very strong VPNs over there just to check our Gmail, let alone get onto Facebook. So yeah, it's a different world over there.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, I have so enjoyed having you ladies. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you guys. I really am sad. I was supposed to see Katie live this weekend, and I'm sad that none of us really know the answer as to when that might be.
Where was that going to be?
Port Royal, South Carolina.
Which would have been my first time in South playing in South Carolina.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's a really wonderful event. It's booked by the town of Port Royal, and the town is so tiny. It's little downtown areas, like a block and a half, and they put the stage in the center of this little area, and you're like 5 minutes before showtime, and you're kind of like, where are the people? And then, I mean, 2 minutes before you start, there's like, they just come in from everywhere, and all of a sudden you've got 500 people. They love it. They support it. They love to dance. It's exhilarating to see those tiny communities that can support something like this so awesomely.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah.
And I want to say thank you, Johnny, for your kind comments.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So as we head out, tell the folks how they can reach you and buy your merchandise. So hopefully they can help support you while we're all waiting to get back on tour.
So my CD is available on katiehenrymusic.com, and my social media is just Katie Henry Music for Instagram, Twitter, and hopefully if you're on Facebook, it's not hard to find me because I'm tagged in this.
You can find me at moonshinesociety.com, and the CDs are up there, all streaming services. If you look at Moonshine Society, you'll find us. And then here on Facebook, if you look at Moonshine Society, I also am on here just as Black Betty, as well as Instagram, because I'm a part of other projects. So you can feel free to reach out to me as Black Betty or to Moonshine Society. I always write back to people. It's always fun to meet new folks. So don't hesitate.
Oh, I've really enjoyed having you ladies. You guys are awesome. And thank you for giving me an hour of your time today. And this was fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Let's do it again. Let's do it
again. Hopefully we can do it when you can play something,
Yes.
Get your bands on here and take it that direction.
Yeah.
So, So thank you. Enjoy your weekend.
Yeah.
You too.
Bye, Jenny. Bye, Tina.
Bye. Thank you for joining that interview. That was a lot of fun. Next week, we will have Gabe Stillman and Artur Menendez, both two up and coming artists. And so hopefully you'll join us then. See you. Bye.